I think I've talked about this before, so forgive me, but out west, where there are still plenty of places with unpaved roads and ranches, there's an old saying. It's called stuck on high center. Now, high center is that part of the road right down the middle between the deep ruts where the wheels of vehicles have made deep depressions in the dirt. So, if the axle of your car or truck is not high enough off of the ground, you can literally become stuck on high center with your tires just spinning in the air while you're going nowhere. So a person is said to be on high center whenever they're immobilized. It could be that they can't make up their mind about something, or their mind might be made up, but they cannot figure out how to proceed. They would love to move forward, either or backward for that matter. Any movement at all would be a great thing, but they just can't budge. They're stuck. These days, none of us would be faulted for feeling a bit stuck on high center. A global pandemic can do that to you. For many of us, it can feel like we're in a state of suspended animation, just waiting for something to happen. It's frustrating. But high center can really apply to many things: a relationship, a job, any situation where you want to move things along, but how to do that remains a mystery. It's frustrating because humans are created with frontal lobes. So we spend a great deal of time imagining the future, the immediate future, or something further down the road. So what's going to happen next is never something we can predict with 100% certainty, but we can still dream, and we can plan, and we can envision. Now, hopefully what we envision and anticipate is positive more often than not, that we don't waste too much time being worried or anxious about what's coming. At the same time, as powerful as our frontal lobes may be, we also have plenty of mental space that's taken up by our memories, our experiences. And that means whatever we believe about the future is always informed by our past. If a child learns that a flame is hot and burns and that hurts, whenever she sees a candle burning, she knows not to place her finger over it, because the first time she did that, ouch! And that's one of the biggest challenges of being a person of faith. Because having faith in anything means that you must put aside what your previous experience has taught you in order to move forward, to get off of high center. Faith, as the Apostle Paul says, is believing in what's unseen. Or he could have just as well said, it's believing in an outcome that our experience has already taught us is quite unlikely or even impossible. And in the past couple of days, as I've been remembering Ruth Bader Ginsberg, I've appreciated how her life story really demonstrates this. Who would have thought a 5-foot-tall woman from Brooklyn would be the driving force behind changing our laws that discriminated against people in the workplace based on their gender? When she was at Harvard Law School in 1956, a really tough place to get into even then, and she was one of only 9 women in a class of 500, the law school dean asked her, "What are you doing here, taking the place of a man?" That was the wrong thing to say to her, to someone who'd already been fired from a job for being pregnant, but who had faith. Even with a Harvard law degree, actually she went to Columbia, but with a Columbia law degree, she had trouble finding work because she was a woman, and she was denied clerkships with judges because she was a woman. When she did work, she was paid less than her male colleagues doing the same work because she was a woman. So she had plenty of experiences that told her that women were not valued as highly as men in our society, but she believed in something that was unseen anyway. And later, in taking discrimination cases before the Supreme Court and winning, long before she ever sat on the Supreme Court, Ruth Bader Ginsberg made her steadfast belief in a better and more justice-filled world for all of us a reality. That's how faith works. And that's why it's kind of funny whenever I hear anyone talking about their faith as being something dependable and comforting. Now, I know and I appreciate what they mean when they say that they believe deeply in certain things, for instance, in God's presence and love, and that's a source of great comfort. That's all awesome and very important, but of course, there's actually much more to faith than that. As comforting as it is, faith is that quality of living that requires us to take leaps into the unknown, to believe in what's unseen, and to put aside our doubts and fears and plunge ahead anyway, no matter what our experience has taught us. I'm a collector of ideas about ways we can improve our lives, our physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. And for me at least, one of my self-improvement areas is consistently finding that courage and the commitment to trust and to have faith, to not let my past experiences shut me off from believing in what's possible. And importantly, to have a faith in whatever I do in the future, it won't just turn out the way that I need it to be, but that it'll be the way that the world needs me to be and to act. And by the future, I mean later today, tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, all of it. And by the world, I mean my wife, my family, my relationships, my work, and how I might make some kind of positive difference in the precious time that I have while I'm still visiting this planet in the flesh. I would love to have the perspective every day of the person who wrote the Psalms. When she says, "Oh, sing to the Lord a new song." Not an old song, but a new song. That particular psalm is giving thanks for God's steadfast love of promises that have been made real. So, it's grounded in past experiences that have been very, very positive. Sing a new song because great stuff has happened. And that's not unusual. When your team wins the World Series, you might burst into song. In a Hollywood musical, if Debbie Reynolds kisses Gene Kelly, he's going to run out and start singing in the rain. I would too. And the psalm seems to acknowledge that the creativity and joy required to come up with something new, to forge ahead in faith, comes only when our experience has been positive. But what about when life has not always been a bed of roses? How do we sing a new song then? How do we have the faith to get off high center? Jesse Elder is someone I follow online. He's a writer and a life coach, and if you attend one of Jesse's seminars, an exercise he might have you do is to look back, to take time to reflect on all you've been through in the past, and to think about how your life experiences, both good and bad, have brought you to where you are today. Another one of my favorite writers is Troy Erstling, and he went through one of Jesse's workshops and later wrote about it. It was a series of challenges designed to help you understand how past experiences shape how we feel about ourselves. So the first challenge was to take a walk for 5 to 10 minutes outside, but to walk backwards the entire time. I have a life-size picture of me doing that. But the point of it was to truly embody the reality that even as we move forward in life, we're always looking back at our past. And how we feel about our past, though, that's what makes all the difference. Troy says that what he learned from this was that even small shifts in perspective can change us for the better. So, for instance, a common life experience is getting fired from a job. Now, that can be a devastating thing for anyone, especially if a lot of your sense of identity and self-worth was tied up in having that job. But looking back on that experience, you might also be able to see in time that having your sense of identity or self-worth so closely tied up in a job, any job, was an illusion. And now you're free from that need to value yourself based on what you did for a living. A change in perspective like that takes what had been a negative experience that impacted your beliefs about yourself, and it recasts it into a greater appreciation that your life has meaning and value and purpose already. You're already worthy, regardless of any job you have. And that frees you up to sing a new song. Another exercise was to find a photo of yourself between the time you were between 7 and 10 years old, and imagine having a conversation with yourself at that age. What would you say to your younger you? Knowing what you know now about what they'll go through and what they'll face in life, what kind of advice would you give? And again, that forces you to think about the journey you've been on, everything you've learned, all the positive experiences right along with all those difficult challenges. There would be some things you'd say in the hope that your younger self would do things differently to avoid regrets. But things being what they are, and that we cannot change our past, that imaginary conversation helps us appreciate our own unique story, our own unique experiences. It helps us realize that despite all of our past stressing out and anxiety about what may come, things usually work out. We do survive. Now, not without bumps and bruises, for sure. But what matters today is far less about what has happened to us than our personal perspective on those experiences. How we feel about ourselves and actually appreciate what we've learned, that's what matters most. How did that thing that happened help you become wiser and more capable? What changes did you make afterward? How did even a negative experience improve your life for the better in the long run? There's great freedom in doing that. Realizing we can actually change how we feel about our own past. We can change the emotional responses that crop up by sitting with that experience, feeling the discomfort and pain and even the loss, but still appreciate how it helped us grow and feel gratitude for having been through it all and coming out on the other side. That's when getting off high center can happen. And that's when we feel inspired to sing a new song, unafraid of the unseen, and not shackled down by what our experience tells us. Instead, we are empowered by a new perspective of what our experience has taught us. Now, this season is when Salem asks all of us to look forward into what's unseen. Any church is an organization with a past, and Salem's no different. This year we've been through and we're still going through an experience like nothing that's ever happened before. We're going to look back on this time, I have no doubt, and say, wow, that was truly weird. But we made it through. But now, today, we're still in the thick of reimagining what church even looks like in the midst of all this. We have to. Plenty of us, myself included, would like nothing more than normalcy. Familiar routines and being once again up close and personal with people we love and care for, doing great stuff together, hand in hand to help other people, worshiping God, and learning how to navigate life together in person. Now, we'll eventually get back to that in-person experience, and at the same time, I think we all know full well it is not going to be quite the same either. No aspect of life, inside or outside of church, will ever look quite the same. And the truth is, even in spite of COVID, we never stopped for an instant pursuing what a healthy church is all about. We never hit the pause button on anything. We merely changed the manner in which we're doing ministry together. And who could have foreseen that in these past 6+ months of functioning in entirely new ways, that 23 new people have joined us. So yes, indeed, we're already living into that unseen different future even as we speak. And that's a good thing. It's a great thing because the whole point of our being is to have faith and live into that faith. And through that faith, continue to do some good in the world. So this month, we're being asked to look into that future, to do some sacred imagining of all we'll be doing together in the coming year, and how each of us can play our part in that through our financial support. But maybe we should look at it this way. Picture yourself a year from now, and picture yourself looking at a photograph of yourself today, right now, and of this church today. What kind of conversation would you have with our slightly younger selves? What have you learned? What were you anxious about that in hindsight really did not amount to as much as you thought? That we got through this just fine. What were you hopeful about in September 2020? And how will you feel a year from now about the choices you made today? Appreciative? Joyful? Filled with gratitude? It's up to you and me to write that story, you know. I believe we're making history right now. I believe we're already writing a new song and we're already learning the lyrics as we go. I have faith in what's unseen. I have faith in your future, my future, and our future together. I have faith in all that God is doing in you and through you and in us and through us because God is not done with anybody. None of us are stuck on high center. No, we're on a roll and we're singing that new song.